Hey, coming up on the show today, it's Memorial Day. Myself, Sonia Kudo, talking how to get things done. And apparently, it's still hard to get ahead in a male-dominated tech society. Really? Come on, guys. Let's go. Today in the lab with Keith Bilous and Sonia Kudo. Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab. All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. Because I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going. How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much do you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? What you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if they're all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
Hey, what's going on, nation? It's Memorial Day. Yes, it is. If you're listening from the United States, and I'm live today. I'm always live. Sonia Kudo coming up in the lab today. We're talking about getting shit done. We're talking about being a breast cancer survivor. We're talking about being a startup founder. We're talking about guys making it hard for females still to get ahead in the world, really. What are we, 1920? Honest to God, gentlemen. Come on. Seriously. We got smart humans. I didn't say AI, I said humans. We got smart humans. Let's excel them. Let's empower them. Let's not get in the way. So if you're just some old stuffy guy, get the guy out of the way. Come on. Yeah. I'm suspecting I'm going to hear a little bit about that with Sonia. I got to tell you, I was checking into her little bio before I walked into the lab this morning. I was struck by that comment that still working to get ahead in a male-dominated society, techs and all that. And I'm not trying to sound naive. I know I'm male, and I'm half of the problem probably, even though not me. I'm all about empowering human beings. But I get frustrated when I hear that shit. Seriously, come on. Honest to God. Get out of the way. Just get out of the way and empower. Lead with kindness. Hey, speaking of leading with kindness, boom, you know what's coming up? You know what's coming up? June. Yep, June. You're thinking, what? Yeah, what's June? June's halfway through the year. And I'm betting, Sonia, did you have a New Year's resolution? Nation, did you have a New Year's resolution? That was 6 months ago. Listen, me and C Marty Fit. C Marty Fit and me. I always get it backwards. We're offering you a comeback. We're offering you a reset to 2024. Coming up June 1st, it's January resolutions. For the month of June, we're inviting you to join myself, C Marty Fit, here in the lab to hold yourself accountable for 100 days. We're going to help you to get through the summer. We're going to help you achieve those January resolution goals right now this June. You can end the year, go into the fourth quarter of the year on a high. Could you imagine? Can you imagine how exceptional you're going to feel? Could you imagine as you approach like that first, second week in September, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm just coming up on the end of my 100-day journey. I just crushed my January resolutions in June. Woo! Fourth quarter is around the table. My business is doing this. My health is doing this. My life is doing this. And I'm coming up on my January resolutions of 2025. Consider it. Come see Marty tomorrow morning in the lab. Mornings in the lab. We go live here, Sonia, 8 o'clock Eastern time, Monday to Friday. Some healthy, fun guys to help you start your day. True. All right, so I'm going to bring in Sonia from Toronto. We're both here in Canada, so we're working today. We're working today, my American friends. We are working here. Boom, boom. Sonia, what's going on?
Hi.
Oh, listen to this. Can you hear that?
I can hear it.
Oh, we're bringing you some energy today. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. How are you, Sonia Cuoto?
I'm good. How are you, Keith?
I am exceptional. Can you tell?
I can tell.
What's there not to be exceptional about? Honest to God, if I could just figure out how to turn my music off. Yeah, I'll even be more exceptional. Why don't I just do this? Boom. There we go. I just got to hit the browser out. Anyways, I'm exceptional. It's Monday, coming up on the last week of May. I'm just dating the hell out of the show right now because I'm just May 27th. If you're listening to this in July, we're good. I'm great. I'm fantastic. I was looking forward to our chat. You're coming to us from
Toronto.
Toronto on a red brick wall. Is it a real brick wall? Or is that wallpaper back wall?
It's wallpaper back wall.
Ah, I knew it. I just knew it. Even in the pixels, I could tell there's a little bit of wallpaper going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
So is it true? Do guys still get in your way?
I wouldn't say guys get in my way. I say traditions do.
Yeah. I want to get into that because when I read the bio, I was like and while I was having fun with it, admittedly,
Yeah.
I was also, I think I was having fun because it was an uncomfortable reality that still exists in the world, doesn't it? These traditions still rear their ugly head. And I'm not trying to be naive because I also said, hey, I'm a white dude here in Canada that probably, I'm a big part of the problem. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. Not me, Keith Bilous per se, but the metaphor of that tradition. The old guy who's like, oh. Anyways, we'll go there in a few moments. So Sonia, joining us from Toronto, tech leader, breast cancer survivor, all around good human being is what the bio says. It's like, yeah, all around good human being.
I try.
Tell me more about you. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the bio myself. You tell me about you.
I've been living in Toronto since in Canada since 1988. I was born in Portugal. I immigrated here when I was 10. I'm the middle child of 5. I still speak Portuguese. I also speak Spanish. I moved to Toronto when I was like 19 and I got into tech 18 years ago by an accident. I'm not a coder or a techie or anything like that, but I got into it and I loved it. I love that my job is never boring. I'm always doing multiple things, working on multiple projects. I'm not the type of person who could sit in front of a desk and do the same thing over and over again like a robot. So I love tech because it's so unique and different and it's challenging and I'm tenacious. So I feel like I'm in the place that's right up my alley. But yeah, I'm a pretty outgoing person. I'm tenacious because I'm the middle child. And yeah, it's a little bit about me.
So I'm glad you brought the word up, tenacious, because I have not seen that word come across my desk until I read Sonia's bio today and yesterday. I'm like, wow, there's tenacity, there's tenacious, there's tenacity. It's a word not often used unless you're Sonia Kudo. She's tenacious. Her podcast is Tenacity C, I think it's called too, right?
Tenacity with Sonia C. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly. Why do you hang on that word? It's not a word often used by many, but you hang on it and you own it. And I like that. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Tenacity to me represents a life of so many failures, but never letting that failure get the best of me because I always had the mindset of I can do better. I can do this. I can overcome it. This is not going to set me back. Things like coming from a broken home and going through a divorce and getting breast cancer and failing in career at a certain point and having a startup that failed and I could have given up, but tenacity is a word that I have always had where I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I can do it. So I think even as a young child, being tenacious was just my nature. So it's a word that I describe myself with.
You unpacked a lot in that sentence.
Yeah.
Broken home,
Yeah.
divorce,
Yeah.
breast cancer.
Hmm.
Am I circling Sonia's name next to those three?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, I know you know what, like those things people say sorry and I'm like, no problem, but it's not something that I regret or that has made me a ba- bad person. I'm actually stronger and better because of it. Broken home, I had a parent who was an alcoholic and a mother who got married very young and was dealing with her own stuff. There's that. And me and my siblings grew up in that. I think I was very lucky in my life because I did have a lot of siblings. I was the middle of 5. And in between all of the turmoil with my parents, we had each other to keep each other safe, to keep each other company. My older sister, she's my oldest sister and I love her, but we see her as that motherly figure because my mom was dealing with a lot at the time. And then I got married really young. and that was probably set up to fail right from the get-go, but I did manage to do it for 10.5 years, and when it ended, it I knew that it had to end, and it was sad, and but it was also there was a lot of good to it, and there was a lot of great things that came out of it, and I learned how to be a better person from that. So all of these things that happen that seem like they're a negative, ended up having a lot of positive in my life. And breast cancer was really a blessing in disguise for me. It just completely changed my life, and it wasn't for the worse, it was for the better.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I go through all these things in my life and I get to a place where I'm really good. Like this is the first time in my whole life where I'm in a place of where I feel good in my own skin. I know what I want out of my life and I'm just in a really good place. And then I'm just working really hard and then I get diagnosed with breast cancer, which is a complete shock to me because there's no history in my family. I'm the first one to get this and I don't understand. But I was lucky that I found the lump myself. I took care of it right away, so I was stage 1. I still had to go through, treatment. I had 4 surgeries. I had a double mastectomy, and it was the process of going through all of the surgeries and the treatment where I really discovered where my tenacity really came from, and I feel like everything in my life was training for this moment, and I feel like nothing can get worse than that. And everything I went through prepared me for that. And I learned a lot even in business. I believe that my body was talking to me and telling me something and I didn't listen and then it said, "Okay, we're going to make you listen." And it was just I learned how to delegate. I learned how to depend on other people. Things that I after my divorce I became very protective of myself where I wouldn't let people within certain boundaries of me and I didn't trust people to a certain level. And then when you go through a disease and you have to depend on other people, it completely changes you, not just physically but mentally as well. So it was a really good learning experience for me.
You just said something which struck me because it's what I wondered and suspected prior to us meeting was when I read your bio, you didn't mention you did not mention the divorce and the broken home, but you mentioned the breast cancer. But the way we've spoken, you mentioned the breast cancer in the third.
Mhm.
Excuse me, which suggests to me that it was the third in the line of events that happened to you. So then I asked myself, did you go through that experience alone? But
I
then and it strikes me that you did, but you had to learn how to invite other people into your life because of what you had experienced with perhaps the broken home and perhaps your divorce. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big lesson for me that I had to overcome.
Was it, and I like to show love through jesting and fun. Was it because and I'm going to say this because I have a lot of friends that are, was it
Mhm.
the Portuguese and you coming out, the stubborn Portuguese? You're like, ah, hell with it. I'm doing it myself.
Absolutely, I think so. Oh, yeah.
It was your dad. It was your dad going, to hell, I'm just doing this myself and I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it also has to be to do a little bit with my upbringing.
Mm.
When I was a child, like, I wasn't raised in an environment where if I felt sick or if there was something wrong with me, we were a priority. My parents were young, they were dealing with their own stuff, so as children, I learned how to deal with whatever was going on by myself, or I kept it to myself and I didn't share it. And that's gone into my adulthood. Even in my divorce, people ask me all the time, and I'm like, I knew I was going to get divorced 5 years prior to. I just sucked it up and I didn't have the conversations. I didn't because that's just me, right? When something is not going right, or I just keep it to myself because that's how I was raised. And maybe that's the Portuguese in me as well. So that's just how I've learned to do better than that now. But at the time, that's just how I dealt with it.
I can't imagine how scared you were when you were in your own private moment
Yeah.
and you found the lump on your breast.
Yeah, it was scary. I spent, like, a good 6 months, like, preparing to die. I got, like, my will ready, and because in Canada, well, in Toronto, I know everybody's breast cancer journey is different, but for me, I did not know what stage of breast cancer I had until after surgery. So I got diagnosed in September, and I had surgery in November, and then I got my results in December. So until December, I didn't know how bad it was. I knew it was cancer, but I didn't know what stage. So at that during that time, I prepared myself in case some for worst case scenario because I didn't want to be a burden on anyone, even if I died. So there's that whole. I think that's the Portuguese in me, though. So yeah,
Yes.
it was scary, but I think I kept myself busy so that I wouldn't think about it as much, and that was just how I coped with it.
Sorry, say that again. I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I said I think I just kept myself busy to cope with it.
I just kept myself busy to cope with it.
Yeah.
You strike me as that kind of human
Yeah.
because, eh, again, when I look at the three things, the three big things in the life, the broken home, the divorce, and the breast cancer, it just seems to be the human thing that we tend to do is just put our head down and go to work,
Yeah, you're right. That is
right? It's
1,000.
just,
Yeah.
it's what we do. How do you not do that today, Sonia? How do you reflect upon those three things in your life? You've lived a life of a young woman that many people were like, "Holy smokes, man, you've gone through a lot already." How do you frame the future to make sure that you live it with just nothing but gratitude and positivity and encouragement? And because that's what really is exciting to me is that you don't strike me as somebody who spends a lot of time reflecting on what happened yesterday. You strike me as somebody who spends a lot of time looking forward. It's like, yeah, I got this shit done and over with. Now it's time to go. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you know me, and we've never met before.
But what's funny, because I'm very fortunate. I get to meet with a new human every single day in the lab, and I have conversations like this. And what I've learned, what I'm really grateful for, is once you talk to enough people, Sonia, how much we all end up in these boxes that are somewhat similar.
Mm,
When I read your story, and I read your story of resilience, and I love that your tenacity, you struck me as if as like a few other people that have come to the lab here, and you have these attributes. Like, I'm not surprised you're successful in business. Like, I know I'm not trying to demean your success with that, but I'm like, of course you are. Like, of course you are. Because what I've known after meeting the people who have come to the lab here, I'm like, yeah, that person's going to be successful. That one's going to be successful because these little blips in your time of life have set you up to be successful.
yeah, for sure.
Nobody sees the dark corners though of your life, do they? They just see you on stage, they see you behind the podcast, they see you being all positive, but they don't really recognize what happened to help you get there.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've been a lot more open of sharing my journey, and I'm trying to be more authentic about it. And only because I found that when I started sharing and being open with my team internally, they started just treating me differently in the sense of,
Oh,
oh, okay, you're not this big badass girl, boss woman that you portray. There's like this person inside that's going through stuff, that's dealing with things, and how can we help you? And so when I realized that I don't have to be on all the time, then I changed my mentality around how I should go forward.
it's incredible what happens when we become vulnerable with our people around us,
Yeah.
especially if those around us aren't vulnerable. And if you do it first,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay, if she's going to do this, then I'm going to do this. And next thing you know, this bond within your team emerges, right? And this connection emerges because you're sharing, your team is sharing, and you're sharing over real conversation.
Yeah. And you're being a real person, right?
Yes. You
Yeah.
mentioned authentic. Was again and again, I got to jest and joke with you, but was that again like the Portuguese shield around you for the longest time, which was like, I'm good, I'm strong, and I have my things, and I got to go to work, but I'm not going to let anybody see the real me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. My nickname at one point was Rottweiler.
Ah,
At
yes,
work. People were just like, "Yeah, don't mess with Sonia." So yeah, I do think that's a lot of the Portuguese in me for sure. It's a cultural thing.
yes, yeah. How
Yeah.
did you? When did you go through your breast cancer journey, Sonia?
2018.
Okay, because I know it really because from my at least from my understanding, it never ends, does it? You have
No.
it, you go through the journey, you stay on top of it. You're a breast cancer survivor, but you're also, I don't want to misspeak, but a breast cancer liver because it's just you never know if you might get that knock again, right?
Oh yeah, it's something you'll live with forever.
And that moment changed you.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was the first moment in my life where I felt like I had no control. I'm a
Mm,
control freak. I live by a schedule. I know what's going on. Even through things like my divorce, I knew when it was time for it to happen. In my brain, I process things, right? But when something happens where it's completely out of your control and you're a
yes.
control freak, it's like, oh crap, what's going on? What am I going to do? And I was very flustered during that time.
How did you end up in tech?
I got hired by a tech company to come in and do like accounting and operations because that was my background. I came from like a manufacturing space. And yeah, and then I got into it and stayed in it.
What did you like about it once you got into it?
I loved that it required a lot of learning. When I got into it, I had high school education and I had done some college part time. And I love that every day I came to work and I was around different people in even though it was tech, everyone had a different role and they were all doing different things. And every conversation that I had with each person, I learned something new and I really loved that. And then of course, new technologies were emerging and we were doing building new things and it was very curious to me and I wanted to know more.
Wanted to know more, and in that industry, you of course could always learn more. So you just kept digging in then.
I just kept digging in. I kept evolving in the company that I started in. So 18 years later, I'm still in the same company. I'm just running the company now.
You started 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Now you're running the company.
Yes.
Now you're the CEO of the company.
My title is managing director, but yeah, essentially the same thing.
That's exceptional. So when you started, Sonia, did you see yourself in this seat 18 years ago?
Not in this seat, but I always knew I was gonna move up, but never saw myself in this seat. I think the smartest thing I did was I took the time in those years, like, I didn't say, "I'm gonna get to this level and get promotions, like, within 5 to 6 months." I knew I needed to put in the work, and I needed to learn. So one of the things that I did was I took the time to learn every role in the company. So, for example, when a project manager would leave, and in between them hiring a new project manager, I'd be like, "Oh, I'll help. How can I help?" And then I would learn that role. So by the time they hired someone else, I had already been doing that for a little while, so I learned it. Same thing with like business analysis or doing QA. The only thing I never really got into was coding because I didn't need to, but I did take the time to learn every single role. And that really helps me now because I hire, right? And I need to know what I'm hiring people to do. I talk to tech companies, startups especially, because we do consulting for startups. And I talk to companies and they're like, we raised $2 million and we have 200 people on our team. And I'm like, whoa, like, how long have you guys been in business? 6 months. And I'm like, that's insane. Why do you have so many employees? And they don't even understand why. They just think they need all these roles, but they don't understand all the roles. So they just hire like crazy. So I think that was one of the smartest things I did because we were able to, I'm now the founder of two products that are part of the company that I'm at, but we were able to build with very lean and we didn't have to raise capital as well.
Hallelujah. Let's talk about this. So we're not going to get into politics around Elon. However, I will say I loved when he bought X
Hmm.
and he's like, all right, 8,000 people here making pizzas. I don't think we need 8,000 people here making pizzas. We probably only need a couple thousand.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, let's get rid of all the ones that don't need to make pizzas. And he got rid of a lot of them. And a lot of worlds, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, finally, somebody who's like, yeah, because there's a lot of companies. I was part of one.
Mm.
There's just so much waste of people making pizzas and nobody challenging the status quo and Parkinson's syndrome setting in. And I'm not talking about Parkinson's disease. I'm talking about Parkinson's syndrome, which is, oh, what's that, Sonia? Oh, I got 2 weeks to make the PowerPoint. Okay, I'll take 2 weeks to make the PowerPoint. No, but you can get it done in a day with AI. No, but you give me 2 weeks. Oh, really? So I love that you said lean startup. I love that you said I rolled my sleeves up and I learned every piece of the business before I brought people in to do it. Sonia, why do so many companies struggle with that concept?
Ooh. Okay. So I'm going to talk about tech because that's where I'm in and that's what I'm.
Well, let's talk
So
tech. Yeah, let's
I,
do it then.
yeah, I think that what happens is tech founders, they are inventors. They're not business people when they start. And they learn the business side after they've invented and built a product, and they don't know all the aspects. So what you get a lot in tech is someone builds a product because they have this fantastic idea, but they haven't done like market analysis. They haven't looked at any competitive analysis. So sometimes I'll talk to a founder and I'm like, "Who are your competitors?" And they're like, "We don't have any." And I'll go do a Google search and I'll find 10 right away. Or I'll say, "What who are your competitors?" And they'll say, "This company." I'll be like, "What are they doing that you're doing? And what are you doing that's unique to what they're offering so that you can have a competitive edge over them in the market?" And they don't know because they haven't done that research. So they're just passionate inventors that are not at the business level yet. And I think that that's really where they need to be. When you have an idea and you want to build a business out of that idea, you have to build some business acronyms in order to get there.
So then, in your experience, is the answer just to throw money at the problem and just say, okay, we're going to go hire a bunch of people and just have people go do stuff?
No, it's not throwing money at the problem. It's the founder has to take the time to learn those roles. A basic thing is learn how to read a profit and loss or a statement of work, right? Like a balance sheet. Learn how to read a balance sheet. You know how many founders I talk to that can't read a balance sheet? And that's crazy to me because you're running a company, you have financials, and you're 100% dependent on an accountant. So, what I'm saying is hire people, but you have to know what those people are doing so that you can manage those people. Because if you hire people and you just let them go and you have no idea what their job consists of, how do you know that they're doing it right? And how do you know what they're doing at all? And if they quit on you, what are you gonna do until you find someone to replace them? You have to step in and run that part of it until they come in. Like financials, I can run financials with my eyes closed. I think that's a really good thing that all founders should be able to do, right? Um, being able to step in into a role and say, I'm gonna do SEO, search engine optimization, until my I find a new person to replace the one that just left. Marketing, all of those things. You have to be able to know at least the basics of it.
Or is it identifying the right humans?
I think that yes, but that comes with time. That I think that comes with building relationships. When you're looking to hire, you're not going to find that right away. It takes time to build relationships and get people to stay with you. Also, don't forget the startup world is hard and sometimes there is a fast turnaround because people are just going through staying here for a bit and then moving on. So I think like on average people will stay at a startup for maybe a year or two if you're lucky, unless they get promoted and they own shares and then they're going to commit to staying. But overall people are going to move around. So I think it's really important for founders to take the time to understand the roles of the people that they're hiring, and so that they can hire them even if you're not gonna fill in, you know who you're gonna hire to replace that person so you can do it quickly and not rely on other people to do it. That's
Uh,
just my own personal opinion because it's worked for me, right? I'm not saying that's the right way to go about it.
yeah, no, hey, but your experience has value in it, and I think that's the point of why we share it, because there's other people out there that are curious and wondering what that next step is, and either they're being confirmed by what they're hearing that Sonia is saying, or they're not being confirmed and they're saying, no, I don't agree with it whatsoever. That certainly is the value of your experience. Now, I've always been a big believer that if you're starting something from scratch, you got to learn how and know how to make the pizzas. I'll use the pizza metaphor. That's just simple to me because I think everybody understands the idea of making a pizza.
Yeah,
You need to know how to make the pizza before you can hire somebody to make the pizza for you.
exactly.
And then you can delegate that responsibility to have somebody else take it over.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. And I think if it's also a matter of documenting everything. As a founder, you document all of your thoughts so that everything is there for someone else to easily ramp up. If I get run over by a bus, this
Mhm.
business will still continue running because I've put procedures in place that it's not the business is not 1000% depending on me now. It used to be prior to getting breast cancer. That was one of the lessons that I got out of it. But now all of my thoughts are documented and I have people in place that if they leave, when they come back, when we hire someone new, there's ramp up, it's documented so that you can get someone on board faster.
That's exceptional learning in itself, isn't it, Sonia? The idea of succession planning, the idea of planning for what might happen, right? So whether it's documenting it digitally or documenting it on paper, but having people around you to take over in case you're not around.
Yeah, and that was a realization that I had. I was like, if something was to happen to me, people are relying on me to pay their mortgages and their rent and pay
Mm.
their bills and buy their food. So wouldn't it be selfish of me if I didn't do that? So I had to put something in place and hire the right people also that I trust that are going to be around and that are going to be responsible and take on the responsibility. And that I think I've built a really good solid team. I'm not saying that people are not going to come and go, they are, but I have some core people that I really rely on and that I know will keep things going and help and if I'm always around, which would be great, they're only helping us grow.
I love that I love that you said it would be selfish of me if I didn't take care of these things.
Mhm,
Not many founders or business leaders think that way. I had a chat with a fellow last night. What's shaking Edward? I'm a big fan of Edwards. I'm a big fan of the company and product he's building. We're doing some work together. I said to him yesterday in our chat, I said, "So how was your day today?" He's like, "Oh, great. I went for a hike." I'm like, "Awesome." I said, because that's most important to me." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "What's most important to me? Product." So I'm glad you're going for a hike and taking care of yourself. I know work's important. I know work's got to get done. He's a startup as well.
mhm.
But I'm like, dude, I really want to know. I really want to know that you're taking care of your human so that you can keep building this exceptional product. You can keep building this exceptional company. And I believe it's my responsibility, yours, who's maybe gone through it, to remind people of that because we all get caught. And I'm rebuilding my next. I'm building a company again right now, and I sometimes have to look in the mirror and go, okay, hold on, Billis, slow down, get back to the gym. That's most important, and I always do because that is my bread and butter, as per se.
Mhm.
But man, to for you to have that awareness and for us to keep I'll use the word preaching to others. Yeah, you got to take care of yourself. Got to take care of yourself because if you're not, you're being completely selfish about your company and about I know what your employees. You're actually not even thinking about them.
Yeah,
And I love that you called that out because that's something that has to be called out, Sonia, to all entrepreneurs out there, frankly.
I and listen, I know that it's hard to do that 1,000%,
Yes.
but the end result of it is actually I get more time for myself.
Yes.
And that might sound selfish, but really, I didn't do it with that intention. But now I get 8 hours of sleep every day, which is
Mhm.
really important for my body. And I have time to do my journaling and my meditation, and my weekends are mine. Although I'm always on, I'll wake up on Saturday morning and I'll jot down my ideas of things I want to do for the week. But I'm focusing on bigger things for the company instead of the everyday hustle. So
Mhm.
putting that in place, I wanted to take care of other people, but it actually ended up benefiting me.
And I'm sure you are at a place now in your career and in your personal journey where you recognize that if you're telling your team that you're taking some time for Sonia, that you're also giving them permission to take time for themselves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a value.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate, and I'll use the word shitty, that you had to go through that very scary moment to probably learn that because I'm also going to suspect, again, just on my experience with my Portuguese friends, maybe if that didn't happen, maybe you're still guns down head. Maybe our conversation is different. Maybe your attitude's different. Maybe your philosophies are different, Sonia.
Listen, I don't know if it's the Portuguese in me, but I was a workhorse.
I know. I know you were. You are. I know exactly.
And I do think that is a little bit of the Portuguese in me, like, I was
Sure.
just a workhorse. And I think what happens sometimes is body starts telling you to stop, slow down, and you don't listen, and then it's, "Yeah, I'm gonna make you slow down," and I am a big believer that's what happened to me. But yeah, like, it just I think culturally, it depends on Europeans, we just have this
Mhm.
if you're an immigrant in another country, it's not just about being European. It's if you migrate to another country, I think your work ethic is different because it's I'm not in my environment. I don't speak this language. I'm an outsider. I could fail very easily. I'm either going to work my ass off so that I don't, or I'm just going to fail.
You're an introvert.
I'm a 50-50. I'm actually more of a yeah, I'm an introvert. Being an extrovert is hard for me. I can be 50-50, but I am more comfortable being an introvert for sure.
When you moved from one country to another as an introvert and getting your feet going in society and busting your ass and going through it, you talk about building an alter ego. How did you do that?
Yeah, I think it happened by an accident. I would find that some of the work that we do, one of the startups that we have is in the mining, oil and gas space. So tech is already very male dominated, and oil and gas and mining is even more. And I found that I was very intimidated by that industry, but I was always in boardrooms and I was always the only female. And I found that if I dress a certain way when I would go into those meetings, I would feel different and I would feel empowered and I would go up in front of the room and give my presentation and talk and I would be like, yeah, like I'm Tenacious Sonia and that's my alter ego name is Tenacious Sonia. And I just developed this alter ego based on if I dress this way, I feel this way. And then I took it further because I'm a control freak. I sat down one day and I designed my alter ego on paper. So I said, who do I want my alter ego to be? How do I want her to feel? What does she wear to feel empowered and to be an extrovert, not be an introvert? And all of the things I wanted my alter ego to be. I designed it. And then I have this rule on Sundays, I do my laundry and I prepare my outfits for the week on Sunday so that I can say Tuesday I have this meeting, this is the outfit and the shoes I'm going to wear because that's part of my alter ego persona that I put on when I go into certain meetings and things like that. Because if I don't prepare myself for the week and I just wear whatever, I don't feel like I'm in that space. And I think what happens to me is I think in my deep in my self-conscious, I am that person, but I need to physically put myself in that space so that I can feel like that. And I think it's helping me become that naturally. It's getting
Mm,
there, but I had to really develop that alter ego because I can be really shy. English is not my first language. I speak three languages, but I'm always worried about I can't pronounce words a certain way or maybe I wanted to say something and I couldn't think of the word and I
mm.
said a word that didn't sound as smart. So I'm always thinking about what if I don't? What if I don't? So the alter ego helps me get in a better space.
Fascinating to me.
It's actually something that's pretty common I found recently. A lot
Really?
of people do it. Yeah.
With men and women or mostly women?
No, a lot of men and women. Like a lot of actors, singers do it. Eminem has an alter ego. Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. Like a lot of them actually have an alter ego.
It's interesting to hear you speak of this because when I use the word fascinating, I mean it as much rhetorical. When you look at some of the world's greatest marketers, they have an alter ego. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. It's this ability to suspend yourself, especially if you're a business person. And in many ways, I do the same thing when I perform in front of the camera or the show, right? So, yes, this
Yeah.
is me. This is an authentic me, but it's as much probably an exaggerated version of me. And you look at
Yeah.
Marshall, who's Slim Shady and who's Eminem and so forth, and he's killing Slim
Yeah.
Shady coming up. But when you spoke about designing your alter ego and you said you discovered it through dress, and I'm going to call this out because you also
Yeah.
talk about in your article about stepping into a male dominated society and trying to get ahead of it and men and traditions and so forth.
Yeah.
Your alter ego had something to do with dress. Was
Mhm.
dress part of the strategy to get into the male dominated crowd? Was it part of the strategy to fit in? Was it part of the strategy to be accepted? Was it like it was my curiosity extends to you dressed very confidently. You
Yeah.
presented yourself very confidently that when you walked into a room of men are like, okay, who's this young lady over here? Am I right?
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't think I did it with that intention, but then I did see it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I did see it. I remember.
And I have no judgment. I'm not trying to cast judgment. It's
No,
curiosity because it's hard for me not to see both because you call it
sure.
out and I'm thinking, okay, because I'm not blind to society and neither are you. And that's what's challenging, unfortunately, for females. It's like they get judged by how they dress. And if they're judged by how they dress, they're either maybe accepted or they're discharged. That's what
Yeah.
sucks.
For sure. And I did see it with my intention when I did it wasn't for that reason, but then
Yes.
once I did it, I noticed that it did have an impact, and then it became for me, part of it was both, right? Because
Mhm.
when I dressed professionally and walked into a meeting, people just looked at me differently. And then when I started talking, I was more confident because I was in that, but how I saw myself and how I was feeling was being projected on how they saw me, but I didn't do it with that intention. I did it with the intention for myself.
Of course. Yeah. But then the net result is I get it. I had a fellow in the lab here in the early days, Joel Yee, and he talked about how he wasn't a gym person, but when he spent some time in the gym, how he felt, how it made him feel confident, how when he walked into his room, his shoulders went back, his head went up, his
Yeah.
suits felt better, his shirts felt better. He's like, Keith, I'm sure I wasn't any different, but everything felt better. And when I walked into a room, my shoulders were out and I just spoke more confidently. I'm suspecting the same thing happens with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You just said it. I think 1,000% that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, all right, this suit looks good on me. The suit feels great. That man's now respecting me because exactly, right? Yes. Yeah. And I wanted to weave Joel in because that's where I was going with it, where it's really about the confidence that extends from your own mirror.
Yes.
And then when you throw some cool clothes on, whether it's a great looking suit or it's a great looking outfit where your physique is shining, your confidence, your words come out stronger, and people are taking notice.
Yes.
That's just the truth, man. I don't care what anybody says.
No, absolutely. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that's exceptional. So in many ways, that journey of charting your persona was also the start of the story that got you to tech acceptance in the workplace, where people are like, all right, the Sonia person has her shit together.
Yeah.
She comes in, she's well spoken, she's well dressed. She maybe doesn't have all the answers, but that's okay because the way she presents herself gives me the confidence that she will get me the answers. What was the learning in that?
Oh gosh, what was the learning in that? I think it took me a while to learn something because I have all this self-doubt deep down
Yeah.
inside that I don't really tell people or express. That whole imposter syndrome, you live that for a long time and it's
Yes.
hard to get out of that mindset or fake it till you make it or believe it until you see it. I think it was until I really started being in tech for longer periods of time, and most of my clients are males, and I started building relationships with them, and then they started giving me feedback when I really started realizing, okay, like, this is working for me,
Mhm.
and they would come back and want to not just work with me, but invite me to an event with them or, "Hey, did you hear about this tech conference? Are you going?" And just going above and beyond to build relationships with me, right? And so I knew that I was on to something there. And I'll be honest with you, like, I love women in tech. I'm all about empowering women, but some of my best friends and the people I look to are actually males. They've really mentored me and embraced me. And I think I have a lot to do with it. I put in the work, but they've accepted me as well. And I think it's just part of that is because I put on this persona that, hey, I'm not a girl who walks into a room that you think I'm pretty and you're going to hit on. There's more to that. I'm not just a pretty face. Like I know what I'm doing. I haven't been in tech for 18 years just for the heck of it. So that persona helps me portray that.
Dude, I'm trying to get over the fact that I'm just still a pretty face. It's not working. He's like, Keith, you got a pretty face. Where's the brains? I'm like, I'm still trying to find them.
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
I know it happens every single day to me. My kids are listening right now. They're rolling their eyes, going, "Really, Dad?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad's a creator. Dad's a hot, handsome creator, getting all the appetite behind the camera."
Yeah, exactly.
Sonia, Can we go back to the beginning of our conversation? And because you just said something which makes me curious, and it takes me back to the beginning, I think.
Hmm.
Broken home, mom and dad.
Hmm.
Were you close to dad?
Yes, very close to my dad.
It's not surprising then today you connect, you aspire, you like to connect with men.
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. I never really thought about that.
It goes back maybe to the respect you had for your father, that the port, and I'll call it. You started with this. Let's go there. That Portuguese respect, that respect for the men and so forth, and the love you had for your father, and now, not that you have no disrespect for females. You just, I think that you probably, I'm looking for a word here. You relate to that male culture, that Portuguese working culture. That
Yeah.
I'm showing up. I am showing up. I'm a hard ass worker. I'm not just another pretty face in the drawer. I'm here to work. And oh, you male, you recognize that I'm good working. And then when they give you the respect that you want, like perhaps when your dad did, it gives you that feedback, and that loop happens, right, Sonia?
Yeah, yeah. I Wow, you put it really nicely. I don't even know what to say to that.
Dude, I'm just a counselor in disguise over here. I'm telling you, I'm more than just a pretty face. I'm trying to convince Nation that I'm more than just a pretty face.
I love how you put that. My dad has passed away now. He did pass away from his addiction to alcohol. But yeah, like I loved my dad. My mom was so busy dealing with my dad, I think, that
Mm,
we became a bit of a burden to her because she had five of us
mhm.
back, very young, in an island in Portugal, and she was dealing with her own mental health and her own life. She was just busy. And my dad, even with his addiction, he would take the time to do little things like bring us leftovers from work in his
Love
lunchbox.
it.
And
Love it.
we would sit by the door to see if he was going to bring us back a can of ginger ale or half leftover
Yeah.
sandwich, which we had at home. I don't know why we wanted it, but we looked forward to him coming home and Saturday mornings with him. Like he was just to the children, he was a lovely person. And yeah, like I really loved my dad. And yeah, I think what you said it beautifully. I have nothing to add to that.
Especially now, Sonia, if you tell me that dad has passed, because I'm suspecting maybe there's a void, or maybe you aspire to have some of that. Maybe you yearn for some of that, right? So now these male friendships, male relationships, male connections you have, maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm very grateful that I get to meet with these incredible human beings like yourself every single day. And I learn, I listen and I learn, and you start to put some things together and recognize that humans are beautiful. We're so
Yeah.
beautiful. And when we think about our stories and we think about how the dots that connect everything together, it's just, I thoroughly enjoy it. Can you believe that we've been here for 52 minutes already?
Wow. Time goes by fast when you're having fun.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with you, Sonia.
Me too. I feel
Tell
like I
me
know
that.
you.
Well, you do. I'm Uncle Keith. I'm sitting over here in Winnipeg, just down the road, man. The pretty face with nothing going on upstairs. So, listen, tell me about the podcast before we say goodbye. Now is the time for Sonia Kudo to shine the light on her business and her what's going on here. So, what's the podcast about? How can people find you? How can they engage with you?
Yeah.
And how do they continue with Sonia once we say goodbye here today?
Yeah, so the podcast is Tenacity with Sonia C, and it's a way of me paying it forward. When I went through the journey of building startups, it was a very lonely space for me. I would go to conferences and I would see these people sitting up on stage and giving these wonderful speeches and talks, but I never had access to those people. So I started the podcast, and it's really about people, entrepreneurs who have built businesses, who are willing to talk about the failures and all of the things that they went through while building those companies and came out successful. And
Mhm.
it's really a way to give back to aspiring entrepreneurs or founders who are in it and need guidance and ways to pivot or raise funds, or I'm stuck, giving them access to people who have been there and done it. And it's just a way for me to pay it forward. I believe in this world, if you are selfish and you just keep doing things for yourself, it's not going to get you anywhere. So I believe in paying things forward. And this is just my way of doing it. I think I'm going to do a lot more around that space, but this is just my starting point. Ways to find me is I actually have a dedicated website. It's soniakudo.com. And there I have all of my startups, my software development company, podcast links, everything is there. So everything about me right there in one nice little page.
That's awesome. I'm going to put that on the bottom here, SoniaKudo.com. You can find her at SoniaKudo.com to connect with her, but we're not done because you said something and I wasn't going to go here, but I'm going to go here with you. Not for a negative reason. Because we might go for a few minutes. You've
Okay.
mentioned the word failures a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to challenge you and ask you to work
Yeah.
with me to change that word.
Yeah.
I've had somebody come through my lab here a number of months ago who taught me a different word to accept and embrace. And I'm trying to pass it on and change everybody's perspective around it as well, which is, I don't think it's failure. I think it's feedback. It's the other F one.
Yeah.
And it's recognizing that some things happened and I'm going to take feedback from it. I'm trying to change the word in my head and in my lexicon and maybe others to empower our brain to not look at it as a negative. Because when we hear failure, especially with children, they are, listen, I'm just came from my kids' dance weekend and nobody got bronze. Everybody got platinums and golds and platinums and golds and medium gold and silver gold. No, it's fucking bronze, man. No, you got fourth place. Sorry, you got fourth place.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some feedback to get you up to first. Right? You didn't fail. You sucked along the way. Here's the feedback to get you to first. You talk about failures. I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to invite you to use the word feedback as you keep learning and speaking and sharing your message to the world. Because I think you have lots of feedback to give and I love hearing it.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm gonna try to not say the word failure as much.
Because you're not a failure. And you know, because somebody reminded me of that. He's like, you didn't fail. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. He goes, you got some feedback along the way. I'm like, yes. And I just frame it for you that way because you strike me as somebody who's methodical in the way you think, control freak, Portuguese control freak. Listen, I got friends that are Portuguese control freaks, so I know that I'm not dissimilar. I got some of this. I got some of the same ADHD things too going on in my head. So I'm working hard on embracing feedback instead of failure. So
yeah.
Sonia, you've been exceptional. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing your story. I thank you for being vulnerable with me in Business Athlete Nation. I thank you for sharing everything. You didn't have to, and you did. And I'm very, really grateful for that as you're struggling with your cough off the camera there. And I'm trying to, she's laughing. And if you're not watching, you actually have to tune in later because this is going to be a clip of Keith and of Sonia falling off the chair as I'm trying to talk her through this. And I'm just being polite, keeping the language going because she's also a podcast. Are you okay? Yeah, there she is.
Attack. What happens when you're live? Oh my gosh. Sorry.
That's good. That is why we go live because that's how we get feedback and we get better. No, this is great. This is awesome. Sonia, again, thanks for jumping in. I've thoroughly enjoyed the chat. At this point in the show, we all cry together because we have a coughing attack.
Yeah.
You're exceptional. I'm going to ask you to hang out in the green room for a second. I'm going to say goodbye to Business Athlete Nation, and then I am going to come and walk you out of the lab. Okay?
Thank you.
Awesome. Hang tight 1 sec. We're going to do this. Oh, that's a little bit of screen there going on. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do... That's the one we're going to walk out with. There we go. All right. Boop, boop, boom. Okay. This is the part of the show where I get to dance my way out of the lab and walk on over to Sonia. You guys all tune out because you're tired of hearing me talk. I'm going to go check on Sonia, and she's having a coughing attack over there in her studio. All right. So hope you guys come back tomorrow morning. Mornings in the lab myself, C. Marty Fit. We're talking January. It's around the corner. It's June 1st. And we have a guest tomorrow. I'm just looking him up. Craig Osherin's joining us tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow at Live in the Lab at noon, I am quickly doing a check on the old calendar. Tomorrow noon, Monroe Melvin. Looking forward to that. Monroe's an AI guy. It's going to be a nerd show. So tomorrow lab, noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern, Monroe Melvin. Then, of course, tomorrow morning, Craig O joining me, C. Marty Fit, here in the lab. Mornings, 8 o'clock Eastern time. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. We'll see you guys. See you tomorrow. Ciao.